Hey everybody, thanks for joining today for our session, Craft Your Course, Personalized Learning with PlayPosit's Powerhouse Tools. I am Stephanie. I'll be running our session today. I'm a Customer Success Manager for PlayPosit by WeVideo. Feel free to put questions throughout our session today into the chat here in StreamYard or into YouTube if you're streaming from there today. And if you have questions after our session today, feel free to email me at stephanie@wevideo.com. Today, we are going to go through a really brief PlayPosit overview and then jump into the meat of our session today, which is looking at how to build in those personalized touches to further engage your learners with features such as branch learning scenarios, dynamic feedback, and more. We'll also take a look at the data and analytics that you'll be able to see on the back end as an instructor and some resources to help you with PlayPosit moving forward. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera off, just save a little bit of bandwidth. But again, feel free to put your questions in the chat as we go through. There we go. So PlayPosit essentially is an interactive video tool. How it works is we're streaming that video through the PlayPosit player, and we're layering on interactions and resources and engagements, right? Ways to make that interactive or that video not a passive experience, but an active one. So that can be with things such as questions and resources. And the benefit of this is not only is it going to further engage learners, right, just then watching a video, but it's also going to let you assess that learning and engagement as well, to be able to see what next steps do we need to take as the instructor to make sure that our students are successful. Something I really appreciate about PlayPosit as someone who used to be an instructor and use the tool in my classroom is that I appreciate that you can also reuse and edit this content that you create over time. So PlayPosit, in essence, has a very long shelf life. You can use it in your course copy with your learning management system, collaborate with others on this content, and use one single interactive video across multiple courses and semesters. We stream video sources in such as Vimeo, YouTube, and lots of other ones. So if your institution has a private video host that you use, maybe it's Kaltura or Panopto, or there's many more out there as well, those videos can be streamed through as well. And PlayPossit has a few different applications. We often talk about self-paced bulbs, which a bulb, by the way, is just a fancy PlayPosit term for an interactive video. But there are other ways that you can leverage it also. We have something called a learner-made bulb, where you can actually kind of flip this type of experience and give them access to create those interactive videos as well. That could be really helpful for things like skills demonstrations or video annotation. We also have an application called Playlists, where you can take multiple bulbs and other resources like handouts and websites and pull them together in a sequential activity. And then finally, our synchronous delivery option we call Broadcast. So you can take any of those interactive videos that you already have and use them live, whether you're over a web conferencing system like Zoom or in an in-person environment. A little more just about PlayPosit in general, really helpful for increasing accountability and engagement. And from that, learners are going to have better content retention. There are also a lot of accessibility features built in, like the ability to have captions and transcripts. And also it's screen reader compatible. There's also an embedded notepad that learners can access at any point throughout the video so they can take timestamp notes and refer to those later on. There have been multiple studies done on interactive video in general and how it can help learners. And it's found that by taking a regular standard video and adding interactivity to it, so the questions, you can make it 66% more engaging, much more memorable, Learners are going to have a longer viewing time on that video rather than kind of clicking in, watching for a minute and hopping out. And by that, you're going to be increasing that knowledge retention. So stepping next into how can we take PlayPosit interactive video and make it a personalized learning experience. I wanted to ground ourselves for a minute. And what does that mean to have a lesson be personalized? And so, one article that I thought was very helpful defines personalized learning as a process of so in a learning environment, you're taking into account the learner and a combination of their prior knowledge, their motivations, maybe it's their goals, beliefs, interests, skills, experience, and culture. And you're providing that instructional experience that's responsive to those different features. So we're especially going to be spending time looking at how to personalize an interactive video based on that prior knowledge, their experience and skills, as well as some other things like learning style and needs, things like that are going to support them with accessibility. So I'm going to show you just a couple of different examples, and then we're going to hop into how to create these personalized opportunities within the PlayPosit. So one example here is going to be using personalized pathways, or you might be more familiar with the term like branch learning. So in this example we see here, and let me blow this up a little bit larger for everybody. We have kind of like a table of contents built in with this video. And so if your style is you want learners to be able to pick and choose a topic that's most interest, or like they know that they need a little bit more exposure to, you can build in a table of contents or resources that they can kind of pick and choose between depending on what their need is. So here it is again. They're like little buttons. They can click on that, and it's programmed to a timestamp that they'll get taken to. Another example here, using that concept of a personalized pathway, isn't based on their choice, but actually based on their understanding or prior knowledge. So in this example, hopefully I can get this a little less blurry. We're going to see a learner has a question in front of them. And based on their answer, so they select an answer here and they're going to hit submit. What we're going to see is because theirs is actually a correct answer, they're going to get jumped forward. And the reason they're getting jumped forward is because they're getting pushed past some introductory information they're already demonstrating they are comfortable and understand. So we'll be able to see once they hit continue, there is a little button that goes woo way ahead because they've already demonstrated some competency. So those are a couple of ways in PlayPosit you can have a personalized pathway, but there are other features that are going to support personalized learning as well. So in PlayPosit, you can actually create some very dynamic feedback. And what I mean is, depending on their answer submission, we can expose them to not only, if they're correct or incorrect, but we can give them maybe reasons why they're correct or incorrect, or resources to follow that answer as well. Maybe somebody is getting something incorrect. They're not getting what they need from this video content. We can link in other resources or handouts or even other videos for them to extend that learning. Finally, there's a feature in PlayPosit called question banks. This is like a paid add-on, so some of you may have access to this, and some, if you don't see this in your account, you're welcome to reach out to us. But this allows you to create a whole bank of questions that they'll get one random one given to them from that bank. This we pull into personalized learning too, because you can actually let learners use this as a practice opportunity. I know some instructors actually build a question bank in preparation for like review activities. And so learners can use this review multiple times, and every time, right, they're going to get exposed to new questions for practice. I'm going to go behind the scenes now and show you how we can build in some of these things like our branch pathways or personalized pathways and dynamic feedback. And to get into PlayPosit, I'm going to show how to go through a learning management system. In this case, I'll use Canvas. We do have integrations with lots of learning management systems, right? So maybe you're using Canvas or Blackboard or Brightspace. I always encourage people to go through that integrated LMS because that's such a great way to have gradebook pass back, learner authentication, instructor authentication. But if you don't have a learning management system at your institution, just feel free to go right to PlayPosit and log in there. So I'm going to go to my course that I want to assign a PlayPosit activity to. And then I always encourage people to use assignments because this gives you the option to have that automated grade pass back. So I'm going to create a new assignment. I'll give this a title today. And then I'm going to scroll down to the submission type and set it to external tool and find PlayPosit in my list of tools. This is a little bit different from each learning management system, but typically there's some overlap there. Where you see this gray box, say set link or enter PlayPosit, you can hit either of those options and then be put directly into your PlayPosit account, even if you've never even accessed your account before. This will provision one for you under your institution. So in my account here, I am put into the My Bulb section. This is like my own content library. So it's going to remember things that I've created before. And this is also the location where I can create a new bulb or interactive video. So that's where I'm going to go through today. And this opens up our designer. So now we're into this bulb designer. We're going to be starting with just selecting that video that we want to use. So you can choose from YouTube, Vimeo, and you might also have a private video host at your institution that would be outlined for you as well. For today, I'm going to go through YouTube. And in YouTube, you can search. If it's a public video, you'll be able to search in this bar for that. Some people use unlisted videos too. That's perfectly fine. You'll just want to copy that link and paste it in, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to be building a bulb for my example here on long division, like going back to my 4th grade instructor roots here. And I'm actually not going to be pulling in just one, but I'm going to pull in 2 videos into this bulb to help me personalize it a little bit more. So when you pull in a video, this is the only necessary step for this bulb to function, is to just kind of point to that video that you want to use. However, I want you to know you can also customize the captions, right? This will help you meet every learner's needs by choosing the captions that are going to be applicable for those in your course. You can also adjust the part of the video that you want learners to see. Like maybe you have a really long lecture video and there's only 5 minutes that you want to use for this particular lesson. You can trim this down to the part that you want learners to view. This is not editing that underlying video. It's really just covering up the section you don't need, highlighting that part you do need. So we'll hide the section you don't want. And I'm going to pull in one more. I'm going to use a YouTube again, paste in my link or search, and then go through my customized steps again for captions and trimming and cropping if I want to. So once you have that video selected, this is the fun part where you get to start building in and crafting that course to make sure you're meeting the needs of all your learners in a really scalable way, right? Because it's hard to do that for every single learner individually. We can set this bulb and activity up to do that hard work for us. How I'm going to start is by framing this lesson for everybody. So I want learners to, like right away when they click on this activity, to see some information about maybe what the title is, a lesson objective, maybe how many points they can expect this bulb to be worth. And some even put in little tips and tricks for how they might want them to leverage PlayPosit to the fullest. So when we start to put in interactions, we'll want to first identify the timestamp of this video we want the interaction to go. And then we'll select add interaction. So for this lesson overview, I'm just going to leave it at the 0 timestamp. And then once I hit an add interaction, we'll see the whole menu of possibilities pop up. So we have lots of question types. We have a few annotations, which in PlayPosit means the ways to add in extra information. And then we have a few different templates that are fun. For a lesson overview, I use the pause because it just allows me to show information and not require any sort of answering from the learner quite yet. So we have a line here for this interaction in which all of our text or information is going to go. And we have a rich text editor that pops up with lots of options to format or add in resources. So you can type right in here, you can copy and paste, and your formatting will carry over as well, whatever your preferred workflow is. Now that I have this information in here for them, at this point, I can just hit done, right? I don't need to do any fancy adjustments to the placement. The timing is already set. And you'll also notice you will have advanced options for every interaction you built. But for this one, we can just keep it pretty simple. So one of the concepts that we can consider when we're trying to personalize a lesson for the learners, right, is creating those personalized pathways, whether they are choice-based and we want them to be able to pick and choose their path, or they're reactionary to the knowledge and skills that they're demonstrating. So if I want to build in the choice kind of pathways, I could use maybe a table of contents and let them pick and choose where in the table of contents they want to go. I could also use like a poll interaction, let them pick and choose. I'm going to work with the table of contents first. Something to know about the table of contents, which is kind of cool, is that it's actually going to pull in everything that you've already built into your bulb so far. And so if I want this to just have my video clip show up, I can add it now. And I see that it's going to pull in those videos and that pause, like that lesson overview already. Once I put the table of contents in, it's not going to keep adding things that I might add in later. And so sometimes I'll put this in at the very end so I can capture everything. But in this case, I just want them to pick and choose like maybe which video they want to view. And so everything about this table of contents is editable, which is great. I can remove that pause interaction if I want to, and just keep these sections. So that's one way you can build it in. This table of contents, something else that's really neat about it is that the timing is already set to span the whole length of this video. So as a learner, at any point while I watch this lesson, I can come back to the table of contents to help me navigate. So that's a way to pull in some choice into this lesson. And I can also do branched pathways based on a learner's response, right? They're demonstrating what they know, and I can take them to different points of this lesson based on what they know. One way I'm going to show you is through a multiple choice today. So I'm a big fan of pre-assessment questions, so I can gather a little bit of data for what my learners are coming into this lesson with. That's really helpful for me to compare what they're going to leave that lesson with, so I can see how much they've learned in between. And so I use this pre-assessment question as a defining point of where they're going to be placed into this video. I might use this right at the beginning, or I might let that intro play for a little bit and then put that pre-assessment question. By the way, you can either kind of click and drag this to that timestamp that you want the question to pop up, or you can click play and wait until you find that exact time you want the interaction to go and pause. So I'm going to use multiple choice for this one. So we're going to select multiple choice. Then we're going to put our question into this text box at the top and our answers below that. So say I'm going to pull in this question of like 43 divided by 5. Whoops. Can't paste this one in. I'm actually going to use our equation editor to help me format this. 43 divided by 5 equals, here we go. And then I'll go ahead and add a few different answer options. 7 remainder 2. And maybe one more. Okay, this is our correct answer. And something I like to do is if they're answering this question correctly, I might jump them past the material that's very simple, right? They're like, oh, they got this correct. They probably don't need to know the very intro of what long division is. We can get them right to that next step that's going to align with their level of demonstrated skill so far. So to jump them past some of this beginner information, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the settings wheel next to this answer option. So we can see we can add feedback, we can add a jump. That's what I'm going to do here is add a jump. And I'm going to like programming this answer choice to go with the section of the video that I want them to be moved to. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I actually don't know the timestamp of when that second video comes in. And so I can actually scroll to the point that I want them to go next. Maybe that's going to be this point here, let's say. A little pro tip, you can actually click on the time that's listed, and that's going to paste it or copy it for you, and you can paste it right into this line. And so once they submit their answer, they'll jump right to this point of the video. I do find it's helpful to give them a little heads up sometimes that they're going to be jumping forward. And you can give them that heads up through the feedback, because this will pop up once they submit their answer too. So it'll say, you could say something like, great work, I'm going to jump you ahead. That way, when they hit continue and they get pushed, past minutes of this video, they have a little bit of a heads up on why they're going there. It's not a glitch. It's because you answered correctly. Okay, we'll hit done. Now our pre-assessment question is ready to go. So those are a couple of different ways you can have those personalized pathways, either through choice, giving them options to click on a section of the lesson they want to go to, or that follow up to what their understanding and skill is already. Another way to personalize lessons is to accommodate for different learning preferences, right? So maybe not everybody does a great job just following along with video. Maybe they need to do it and practice it in order to understand that concept a little bit more fully. You can actually pull in some practice websites into your video in PlayPosit. I am going to do that maybe, along this point of the video. There's a really good part to pause and add some practice in. And so I can do that through pulling in a web embed, say. Like I have a really great practice division website that allows for itself to be embedded. I'm going to select web embed and then paste in the URL of this practice site. So once they get to this part of the video, they can go through the activity here and get a little bit of practice by doing. So for all of our interactions, right, you can leave them where they are in the sidebar, and you can also decide at any point if you want to move it over to be a video overlay. So I can cover up that video and give them the opportunity to play around with this. And when they're done, hit continue. All right. Let's say we're going to talk about like a little bit more ways to pull in feedback, that dynamic feedback to meet learners where they are, give them some just-in-time resources so that they can get what they need when they need it. One way we can do that is I'm going to take the same question that I used as my pre-assessment question and pull it in as a summative assessment, kind of at the very end. I'm actually going to duplicate this so I don't have to recreate it every time. I'm just going to separate it from this little group here. Okay, so I'm going to take this duplicate that I have. I'm actually going to take off this jump, and instead we're going to do a little bit of different feedback. I think I want this to go at the very end, right? This is kind of like my end question. And now, if they're getting this question wrong, this would be a great opportunity, right? Because they've gone through this whole video. They're not quite understanding it enough to be able to answer these questions correctly. Maybe it's time to give them some other resources so that they can, come back and get this correct. The way I can do that for somebody who might be selecting this incorrect answer or this incorrect answer is I can program them with the feedback, and I can actually put resources into this feedback. So for example, we could say something like, nice try, check out this resource. This could be something like a handout that you're pulling in, could be a recording of yourself, an image of a diagram, could be even a link that you pull in. So there's lots of flexibility in how you want to deliver this resource. In this example, I'm going to use an image, a diagram to help them along. So I've grabbed a link from like Google Images I'm going to use. You can also upload an image if you have it on your computer. But let's say we're going to pull in a link for an image. This image description is like the alternative text. So that's how you might, add this accessibility feature in here. So I believe mine is a like an order of operations for long division. Got my alternate text, my link here. Here we go. So now once they submit this incorrect answer, this is the feedback that will pop up. Again, you can add lots of different things, like maybe you're sending them to a page of a handout or a link to a separate video. This is one way you can pull in those resources just in time for exactly what they're needing in that moment. Again, we can do this for this other incorrect answer as well. All right, I've got one more for you guys. Let's say, I always think it's like a really good practice to allow learners to reflect on how they're feeling with the content or their level of understanding. And so at the very end, that's like part of my routine. So I'm going to add an interaction at the very end here. This could take place in a poll interaction, right? Because it's not necessarily right or wrong. I just want to get a little bit of feedback as to how they're feeling about the content so far. So maybe we're asking a question like, how are you feeling about this content or about this lesson? Give them a couple of different options. Good. I'm going to make this really simple for today and not great. Well, okay, let's say they are not feeling great. How can we extend this lesson for them to give them a little bit of more information to dive into, right? We can't force them to do this, but we're kind of like spoon feeding them some next steps, hoping they're going to use it. I'm going to pull this feedback again right into this answer option. And maybe I say something like, hey, thanks for letting me know, right? It might take a lot for them to be vulnerable in this moment. Feel free to review this video again. Of course, they can always come back to this video to review as long as this assignment is still open to them in the learning management system. But also, here's a great video you might want to check out that does also a great job of explaining this concept. So one more thing you can do to help them out. Okay. I'm just checking over, making sure I got everything in here that I was hoping to touch on today. All right. And thank you, my team, helping to answer questions out in the chat. So I have lots of great questions in here and ways that learners can take advantage of this activity that's not just one size fits all. To go through and adjust points for all of your questions, you'll want to click on these triple dots here and make sure that the point value matches what you're hoping. So you can go through, I think by default, most of our questions are going to be 1 point, right? But maybe you want them to just be 0. Maybe you want them to be worth more than 1 point. Oops, getting too clicky over here. But go through and check that each one has that point value you're hoping for. And then once you're happy with how your interactions look, the ticket out of this bowl building process is to go to the top tab on the right that says review. So we can adjust the title. By default, it just pulls in your video title. So you can adjust that if you want. You can also add a learning objective. Tags, I love for my own personal use. Learners don't see these tags, but I see them in my bulbs library. So I can remember maybe what course I assigned this to or what semester I created it. It just helps with your content management. So maybe it's like fall of 2024. And then I would definitely suggest opening up your playback options. This is really where you're going to set up the overall settings for this bulb. So you can decide if you want learners to be able to rewind once they hit an interaction, or if you want them just to be answering it before they can move forward or backward. You can also decide if you want them to be able to skip interactions or to fast forward in the video. I will note that whenever you're allowing learners to jump in a video, you'll want to allow for fast forwarding because that's going to allow the whole system to work for you and fast forward for you. You can also decide if you want them to be able to retake this bulb for a new score. So if you have this submitted every time they finish and they get to the end of that bulb, there's going to be an option to retake the bulb for them. This is selected on. Otherwise, and if they do retake it, that new score is what's going to be passed to the learning management system. If you just want learners to be able to go back and review the video, but not be able to take it for a new score, you don't need to toggle this on. They can just click on the assignment and hit play. Then they'll be able to see all the questions, what they answered, the feedback that they got. You can also allow learners to increase playback speed. They should always be able to decrease that playback speed, but Only increase it if you toggle this on. So that might be another thing that you consider when you're thinking of how you can customize this lesson to meet different learning paces. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up there. So these are the ones that I would suggest for this one in particular is to be able to fast forward to allow our branching to take place. I love to allow learners to view their printable report to see what they submitted, what their feedback was, and it'll also include any notes that they took if they did use that embedded notepad throughout this lesson. And we're going to allow them to increase playback speed. So I'm going to save my changes, and then I can preview this bulb just to make sure everything got implemented as I was expecting. One thing I'll note about this preview mode that I get questions about is you can toggle playback modes. It'll put you into instructor playback mode first. And so say this comes up because like some instructors will disable fast forwarding and skipping. And when they're previewing their bulb, they're previewing it in instructor mode. Instructor mode actually still lets you skip and fast forward, even if your learners aren't going to be able to. So you can toggle it to learner mode, and that will confine you right to the same restraints that you have put on learners for this lesson. So hope that's helpful. I'm going to go ahead and save. And now this bulb that I just created is at the very top of the My Bulbs page here. So remember that's the tag I added on. So that's going to help me in the future. Remember when I created it. And then that kind of helps me later on, like what content I might need to go back to and refresh over time. To now link this interactive video to my learning management system, which in this case was Canvas, I'm going to select the icon for my learning management system that's sitting right next to the title. This is what's going to allow us to link it to that assignment that I started. So we're going to hit link. And oh, of course, we're going to have fun with LTI errors when we're doing demos, right? That's just the way of the world. Let's pretend that that doesn't come up for you. What you're going to see is this box again. So you'll hit select, and then the box will go away. It will be linked to your assignment. You can go through and adjust your points, of course, and maybe your due date, things like that. Make sure it's perfect for what you're needing. And how the grade passback works from PlayPosit to your learning management system is we communicate this as a percentage. So your points don't necessarily need to equate to the same thing that's in PlayPosit. A lot of people do that, and that's great. But like say your points in Canvas are 100 and they're actually 10 in PlayPosit. If a learner gets 8 out of 10 in PlayPosit, they're going to get 80 out of 100 in Canvas. So we send that percentage to Canvas. Canvas kind of works out the rest to fit your assignment needs. So then you can go ahead and save or save and publish. And I'm going to go ahead and get out of this assignment that's doing me no good today. But let me show you what an example of what the monitor page shows once learners do start to hop into your assignment and take your awesome personalized bulb. So let's say it was this assignment that we created for them. And as the instructor, right, this is what I'm seeing. So this is your little ticket into the monitor page where you can see how learners are doing so far. So you'll see their names pop up here on the left and the score they've received, as well as the completion status. So you'll be able to tell if they have completed this, if they're in progress, or if they haven't started it. And then along the right will show all of the different interactions that were included in this bulb as well. And it will have their responses listed underneath. Say you're an instructor teaching a very large course, from like 50 learners to 300 or maybe even more than that. This is a lot of content to individually go through. My favorite place to save myself a little bit of time is to go over to the bulb analytics, because that's going to give you a better um, at a glance view of how students are doing overall in this lesson. So I can see on this question 1, we're doing really well. These next 2 questions, granted, I haven't had a whole lot of learners take this yet, but this is an area that we're showing a little bit of a knowledge gap, and then we're doing pretty well in the last 2. So green is going to be correct, red is incorrect. And if you have a yellow show up, that means that it's a question that requires some grading. So maybe you used a discussion or a free response, and you set it to be manually graded. That's why something might show up as yellow. Otherwise, PlayPosit is going to do that grading for you, and it'll pass it to the LMS for you. We love that. Below, you can check on the average score and then the completion status as well. So you can see if you need to maybe send out a reminder to make sure, we have more learners finishing this activity up. Okay, so heading back over here, just reviewing the steps that we went through, because I know that was a lot in one stretch. So what we did was we went to our learning management system first and launched PlayPosit right from there. Then we were in our PlayPosit account, so we added a new bulb. We selected the video or videos that we wanted to do, and then added in some interactions as well. And then finally, once we had completed that bulb, we clicked the icon next to the title to link it to the learning management system. Okay, I think we're ready to talk resources. Here on the screen, you'll see the URL for our customer resource page, and I'm also going to throw this into the chat for you. This lives inside your PlayPosit account. So when you go in there, so you can either go directly to that URL, or if you want to navigate it from your account, you'll find it here in the bottom left-hand side. So the customer resource page, I love it because there's a little bit of something for everybody. If you're a kind of self-paced learner, you like to do things on your own time, we have a PlayPosit Academy, which are different video tutorials you can check out, and they're in a sequence. So you can choose like learning management specific ones and learn more about how PlayPosit fits into your specific learning management system. You can also check out a few different topics as well. Okay, backing up here. There we go. We have lots of webinars. Thank you again for joining this one today. And a whole use case library you can check out if you're looking just for different examples of how people have integrated PlayPosit into K-12, higher ed, professional learning, lots of different topics. We have help articles too. Some of those are like tutorials for different use cases. Some are specific to learning management systems. So lots of great content in there. And I'd like to extend an invite to our office hours that happen twice a week. On Tuesdays and Thursdays at these listed times for half an hour, myself or one of my teammates will be waiting for someone to join us on this Google Meet link that's linked right here. So you can come with all kinds of questions or just hand holding like, hey, I want to build a lesson today, and I want to be here just in case I stumble into something I'm not sure of. Like, we're there for all of it, so feel free to join us. And if you're looking for even more inspiration, one more idea I wanted to leave you with is that in your account, there's a section called pre-made bulbs. Once you click into that, you're going to see your institution's name and media. So this is like your institution's content commons for PlayPosit content. You can also toggle over to this section, which is the all PlayPosit commons. So instructors who have shared their content to this space, this is where you can find it. This is going to be a lot to sort through, right? We've got thousands of bulbs here. So something to help you out is you can use this search. So you can search by keywords. If you've got a buddy you know creates great content, you can search by their last name. My other favorite is searching by YouTube URL, right? So if you have a YouTube video that you traditionally have used in the past, you could see if somebody else has already created a bulb out of that. So once you have, done your filter, if you see something that strikes your interest, you can click these three dots to preview the bulb. And if it's something that you would like to use, you can hit copy, and that'll copy that bulb right into your PlayPosit My Bulb section. So you can edit it or just link it right to your course. Last but not least, we have a YouTube channel. So there are lots of great quick video tutorials there. And I'm also going to end by just checking to see if we have any other questions in the chat, or if any questions are coming to mind, feel free to post them there now. If this is where you're hopping on, thank you guys so much for joining us today. And I hope that this helps you to personalize those lessons and increase engagement and knowledge retention for your learners. Thanks, everybody.